If everything in your body changed after menopause, mood, stress, sleep, weight, and you were told that this was just a part of aging, I want you to hear me very clearly. Menopause was not the problem. All menopause did was remove the buffers that were keeping your system together in the first place. And once you see it, everything about how you're feeling is going to start to make sense. This is why women say things like, I used to eat this thing my whole life and now I can't. I never had anxiety before and suddenly everything makes me anxious. And things like, my body feels so unfamiliar. Those symptoms didn't come out of nowhere. Menopause exposed them. This diagram is going to explain why PCOS, menopause, anxiety, gut issues, stubborn weight gain are not separate issues. They're all different expressions of the same problem. And today we're focusing on menopause. This video is going to show you exactly why your body changed after menopause and why it feels like everything suddenly got harder. If you're in your late 40s, 50s, 60s, and you feel like your body has betrayed you, this video is for you. Your body didn't betray you. You are not failing at aging. Your body is being exposed to a lot of issues that it's been dealing with for a long time. Today, I'm not just going to list like a bunch of menopause symptoms. We all know what they are. I'm going to explain why, biologically, neurologically, physiologically, and metabolically, why you're experiencing the symptoms that you're experiencing. And it's going to make a lot of sense and hopefully make you feel a lot better. Now, clinically, we define menopause as a 12-month stretch of time where you don't have a period. But the truth is that functionally, menopause is a multi-year process of systems learning how to function without a regulator. There are 3 phases to menopause: perimenopause, actual menopause, and then postmenopause. Most people feel like crap in these first 2 stages, not once it's actually done. Once it's actually done, you kind of settle into feeling like crap, and we need to change that. The reason that you feel like such crap is because estrogen was never just a reproductive hormone. Most theology leads us to believe that estrogen is all about this system. But the truth is, if you've been sitting there feeling like, why am I falling apart? It's because your system didn't just fall apart. It just lost the ability to coordinate. Menopause didn't create the problem. It removed the buffer. So you're going to hear me say that a lot over the course of this video. So get prepped. The first place that you feel that loss of your buffer is not in your ovaries. It is in your brain. So we have to start at the top. Specifically, your hypothalamus does a lot. It is the center of essentially all of your coordination. It regulates your nervous system. It regulates your endocrine system, which is these 4 guys in the middle. And it regulates your immune function, which is essentially this whole picture, plus like your bones and your spleen and your thymus gland. But it also regulates things like temperature, stress, sleep, hunger, and your nervous system. Estrogen receptors are actually really dense in the hypothalamus. Like you have a lot more estrogen receptors in the hypothalamus than you do in like most other parts of the body. The only place else that has as many is your ovaries because, well, they use up a lot of estrogen. But your hypothalamus uses a crap ton of estrogen and it has a lot of different effects on you, including that nervous system function. So your hypothalamus regulates a lot of different function, but let's talk about your temperature real quick. You have what's called a thermoneutral zone. What does that mean? Thermoneutral zone. It's a zone of temperature where your body feels neutral. We should have a pretty wide zone of like 4 or 5 degrees, really, where you can fluctuate up and down and your body is like, I'm good. But when you lose estrogen, that thermoneutral zone gets very narrow. And as soon as you step outside of that zone, your body is going to overreact by dumping a bunch of heat into you because it thinks you're dying. Have you guys seen that video about where that lady was like sitting at the baseball game and her head started smoking? It was really funny, but why did that happen? Well, if we look at the video, it was at night. It looked like it was misty. She had on a jacket. It was cold. She had a very narrow thermoneutral zone. So when she stepped right outside of it, even though in a normal situation, she probably would have been fine, like felt a little chilly, hands cold, her body was like, oh my God, we're dying. Heat up the system. And then we saw it, right? We saw the smoke coming out of her head. That happened because her zone is super narrow. That happens because your hypothalamus doesn't have the estrogen it needs to keep that zone really wide. The other thing that happens in the hypothalamus is your neurons start firing like crazy because literally every little thing feels like an emergency. Hypothalamus actually is like, oh my God, we're in an emergency for everything. When I say everything, I'm talking about like day-to-day stress, eating spicy food, not sleeping well, having blood sugar dysregulation. So when you eat too much sugar or too little sugar, that can actually trigger a hot flash, panic response. So again, it's not happening down here. It's happening up here, right in your brain. If your hypothalamus is essentially your control center, your nervous system and your chemistry, like your actual body chemicals, are like the soundtrack that this is trying to control. Okay. We have to look at the nervous system next because what happens here is very, very interesting. But your nervous system has two sides to it. Okay. The parasympathetic and the sympathetic. Parasympathetic and sympathetic, these two sides of your nervous system literally toggle on and off all day to regulate how you're functioning. Your parasympathetic system controls rest and digestion. Your sympathetic nervous system controls or flight. We're supposed to toggle on and off all day. Okay. Here's a problem. As you start to lose estrogen in the hypothalamus, it affects a couple of things. It affects serotonin, it affects dopamine, and it affects GABA. Here's why this is important. This is the part of the situation where women say, I don't feel like myself anymore, because all of these very important chemicals are out of balance. And serotonin specifically activates or increases tryptophan availability. You need tryptophan to activate melatonin. So if this is not working, your tryptophan doesn't work and your melatonin doesn't work, which means you're not going to sleep. This also affects things like irritability, low mood, emotional flatness. Like I meet a lot of women who are like in menopause or postmenopausal who tell me they just kind of feel neutral all the time. Like nothing makes them feel super excited and nothing makes them feel super down. They're just kind of flat. That's happening because you're not using your serotonin well. Estrogen increases serotonin receptor sensitivity. So you can actually use more of it. It also slows down how you break down serotonin. So you use more of it for longer. So the effects on your mood last. Whereas if you don't have enough estrogen, you can't do that. So your mood is going to suck. Estrogen also enhances dopamine reception, which is going to affect things like motivation and reward. A lot of women say things to me like, I know what I have to do. I just don't want to do it, or I can't do it, or I can't start it. That's because one, your motivation is not there. And two, that sense of reward that you would get from accomplishing something is also kind of like, meh, like you can't fully comprehend or feel that sense of reward for accomplishing something. And that's kind of like cyclical. If you don't have the motivation to do and you don't really care about the reward, why increase motivation, right? That's what's going to happen. You're going to kind of get flat. And most importantly, your GABA also tanks because estrogen also increases GABA receptor sensitivity. And GABA acts like a brake. It acts like the stop for your fight or flight system. When there is no stopping the fight or flight system, the parasympathetic system cannot activate as efficiently as it normally would. What's going to happen there? You're not going to sleep. You're not going to rest. You're not going to digest, which we'll come back to. Because you're constantly in a state of fight or flight, you're not really resting. So if you're going to sleep and if you are one of those people who can sleep in menopause, but you're waking up and you're like, oh my God, I'm so tired and I feel like I can sleep another 2 or 3 or 4 hours, it's because you're not really resting. You're just like going into a coma state, and it's not true rest because this side of your nervous system cannot fully take control of the situation. In addition to not sleeping, if you're constantly in a state of fight or flight, your anxiety is going to be high, your sense of stress is going to be really high, and your thoughts are never going to stop because you're constantly in fight or flight. So if you lay down at night and like all of the things that you didn't do that day start running through your head and it starts stressing you out and you can't get your brain to shut up, that's literally happening because your dopamine wasn't giving you a sense of reward for accomplishing those tasks during the day. And then the GABA, the stop, is not there. So now that titillation is going to continue and make you feel anxious. That's what happens when this whole system gets jacked up. This is neurochemistry. This is not emotional weakness. So don't let anybody ever tell you that you just have to be stronger. If everything inside your body is working against you, there's no way that you're going to think your way or like resolve your way out of that situation. It won't happen. Okay. So give yourself some grace because your body chemistry is literally doing the opposite of what you want it to do. And that is not your fault. And here is where this all connects. Once this chemistry starts shifting, your entire stress response is going to start to shift also. And so is your digestion. Once that stress response gets higher and that digestion gets messed up, it actually loops back right here because all of this is cyclical. And guess what? If your stress is going crazy and your digestion is not working well, your hypothalamus is going to get more stressed out. And then that's going to trigger this to start all over again. And you're going to just continue that fight or flight response because in order to digest, your body needs safety and it needs calmness. And this is where shit really starts stacking up for women. Like, seriously, if we go follow this loop and we bounce back right here to the hypothalamus, your hypothalamus regulates a hormone called CRH, corticotrophin releasing hormone. Your corticotrophin releasing hormone actually regulates the HPA axis. This is its own separate system in the body, not a separate system, but it's a unique system, let's call it, in the body that a lot of schools in holistic health believe run the entire show. I don't necessarily disagree with that. I think that it does run the entire show, but there's, more factors here. Anyway, CRH regulates how this whole system talks to each other and what signals are coming out of it. CRH is responsible for like cortisol-driven anxiety. It's responsible for appetite regulation. So if you feel like your appetite has gotten out of control or the opposite, you have no appetite at all, it's because of the CRH. It also enhances memory and attention. If your CRH is messed up, there's a lot that's about to follow. Here's the main thing that's going to follow. Estrogen buffers CRH so that CRH can regulate our favorite guy, cortisol. When your estrogen drops, cortisol actually goes up. It spikes because there's literally nothing telling it to stop. So if your nervous system is saying, hey, we're in fight or flight most of the time, your body has no choice. It's going to raise cortisol. And cortisol is going to do a couple of things. It's going to make you gain weight because cortisol tells your body, store fat. We need provisions. We're in fight or flight. We don't know where our next meal is coming from. That's literally what cortisol says. And it's also going to disrupt your digestive function because digestion requires parasympathetic dominance in order to happen. If your cortisol is high, your stress signals are high, the sympathetic system is going to take over and you're never going to rest and you're never going to digest. Cortisol also lowers stomach acid, which is going to make things really hard to digest. It's also going to give you acid reflux. We think that acid reflux comes from too much acid in the gut, but the reason that we have that increase of acid in our gut is because you don't have enough to begin with. So when you eat something or when you don't eat something, your body's like, oh my God, get acid in there. We have to break this food down. Oh my God, what are we going to do? Flood acid, flood acid. The problem started because you didn't have enough acid to begin with. So if you're in like your 20s and 30s or early 40s and you're watching this video and you have acid reflux, I can pretty much guarantee that the reason for that is you don't have enough acid. And I can almost pretty much guarantee that your stress is high. On a scale of 1 to 10, rate your stress. If you're over 5, your stress is too high, okay? And when your stress is too high, your stomach acid will come down and that will lead you to things like acid reflux. Cortisol also reduces pancreatic enzymes. You need pancreatic enzymes to break down protein and to break down carbs. So if you're not breaking down protein and carbs and your stomach acid's low, your digestion is going to be jacked. Cortisol also impedes bile flow. So now you can't digest fat. Okay, so this is protein and carbs, but fat. So literally there are only 3 macros, guys: protein, carbs, and fats. So if your cortisol is high, you're not getting any of those. your digestion is going to suck because you can't break down anything. And when your digestion sucks, it leads to nutrient deficiency. I know nutrients are down here on the chart and we'll come back to why, but you're going to lose nutritional efficiency. That means all the B vitamins, the vitamin A, the D, the E, the K, all the things that you need to work very well are just not going to be there. They're not going to be absorbed because you're not breaking down the stuff that's giving it to you in the first place. Does that make sense? This is why stress makes your gut worse. Have you ever heard of stress gut? It's a type of leaky gut. Anybody who has IBS has stress gut, okay? It is an emotionally driven gut dysregulation. That's what IBS is. I don't care who says whatever to you, that's what it is. And stress makes the digestive situation worse. So if we go back here, the hypothalamus is all jacked up, your nervous system is all jacked up, your pituitary gland is getting signals from all over the place that trigger your adrenals to increase your cortisol. This loop is going to start, okay? And it's going to come back over here to re-trigger. So it's kind of like a chicken and an egg situation, because after a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 10 years of dealing with this, we don't know which one came first. It makes me super sad because we could fix it. You could fix this. You really, really can. We're also going to talk about the actual integrity, like structural integrity of your gut. Estrogen is such a fascinating hormone. Also, in addition to all the things, it also increases the proteins that strengthen your gut lining. Imagine fishnet stockings, okay? Your entire GI tract is lined with fishnet stockings. And that fishnet stocking is your gut lining. What estrogen does is it increases the proteins that create tight junctions. So if these are junctions in the fishnet stockings, these are supposed to be really tight. Have you ever worn a pair of fishnet stockings and one of those junctions get ripped open? So estrogen increases the proteins that keep this super tight together. So when your estrogen drops, those proteins are called agglutinin and claudins. Those protein compounds start to drop. Your fishnet stockings get holes in them. They don't have what they need to stay structurally sound. So you lose protein. The fishnet breaks open. Estrogen also reduces inflammation. So when inflammation hits this, and also you might be saying, how is inflammation hitting my gut lining? Well, if you eat a lot of traditional dairy, it literally turns into inflammation. If you eat seed oils, that literally turns into fire in your gut. Your fishnets are going to start tearing apart, and that leads to leaky gut. This is the part where women say to me, I ate this food my entire life, and now suddenly I can't eat it anymore. That didn't just happen because you suddenly developed an allergy. That happened because your fishnet is broken, and now all this crap that's supposed to be in your gut, like staying in the GI tract so your body can get rid of it, is crossing into your bloodstream. And your body is going to respond to anything in the bloodstream that shouldn't be there. Once your gut barrier is compromised, this stops being just a digestion conversation because now your immune system has been activated. When the gut becomes permeable, so permeability means my fishnet got ripped open and now there's things pouring into my bloodstream. When that happens, your body will release cytokines. Cytokines are like text messages that your body sends to the immune system and the brain saying, hey, something is wrong here. I need you to come help me. And so those messages get sent to the brain and the immune system, and then your body sends things to fight. Estrogen would normally regulate your T cell response. T cells are the signal that actually calm your immune system response. They say, okay, yeah, that's not supposed to be there, but like we don't have to respond that aggressively. We could chill. That's what T cells do. Estrogen increases your T cells. When you lose estrogen, you don't have that buffer. Now your body's just going to go. It's just going to respond to everything that's coming into the bloodstream. Estrogen also calms mast cells. Mast cells are the cells where that histamine come from. So if you've suddenly developed a lot of allergies after or during menopause, It's because your histamines are going crazy. So again, immune system, and it increases your immune tolerance. What are the things that I can tolerate? It makes that tolerance level really high. So when estrogen drops, the things that you used to be able to tolerate, you cannot anymore. That's why a lot of women develop new allergies, develop new food sensitivities, get diagnosed with autoimmune diseases. The second highest time that a woman would get diagnosed with autoimmune diseases is during menopause. The first highest time is actually during childbearing years. Interesting, because our estrogen is actually going crazy then too. So again, without estrogen, your histamine rises, your immune system goes crazy, and then this becomes a total shit show. And in that shit show, your stress is going to get higher, your inflammation is going to get higher, and then that's going to go back here. We cannot separate inflammation from stress and anxiety and mood and sleep. But it also shows up in one more place that we all take very personally. It shows up in your metabolic function. Now, we need to talk about metabolism because it's a really big part of this. But to be honest, your metabolic function during menopause deserves its very own conversation. So I'm going to be doing another video that's going to answer the question about why your metabolism is so jacked up during menopause. And we're going to touch on it in a way that's not usually explained. Because when women gain weight during menopause, usually the response is something like eat less, move more, fix your insulin, go look at your thyroid, take a GLP-1. That's becoming my new favorite. But as you can see, your metabolism doesn't work by itself. It's part of this whole system. So if we do things that specifically trigger metabolism alone, we're not dealing with any of the other problems. And your metabolism does not work alone. It works in a chain of command. It starts here and it goes through here, okay? Again, I'm not going to spend a bunch of time on this right now because we have to talk about this separately because it's so nuts. But when estrogen declines and your body loses that main regulator, your stress response has to come in and compensate. And here's what's very interesting. So again, estrogen acts like a regulator. You need estrogen and progesterone to help you with thyroid hormone conversions. Again, we'll talk about this in another video. What happens here is as cortisol gets louder, your thyroid gets quieter. Okay, it's kind of like a weight, like those old school like balancing scales. If your cortisol is high, your thyroid is going to come down. If your thyroid's high, your cortisol is going to come down. Interesting, huh? People who are hyperthyroid, so too active in the thyroid, they're very thin. Why is that? One, they're burning through all their calories at like super speed, but two, their cortisol has to come down. What happens in this situation is your thyroid signaling gets dampened, your conversions start to slow down, your blood sugar, back to the pancreas, becomes harder to regulate because cortisol also messes up insulin signaling. So your blood sugar gets harder to regulate and insulin has to work harder over time to do the same job because the thyroid is being very quiet right now and not doing enough. So the insulin and cortisol have to compensate. I hope that makes sense. Again, if it doesn't make sense, I'll be explaining it fully in another video. So energy drops because your metabolic function is dependent on your thyroid. Your blood sugar breakdown is dependent on your thyroid. So when it gets really quiet, your energy starts to drop because you're literally not converting anything. You don't have any fuel source at this point. You have no energy coming out of your thyroid, and cortisol is telling you to store everything that you're eating. So you have no source of energy. Your fat storage, again, is going to increase, and the body essentially shifts into conservation mode because staying alive becomes more important than being efficient. And your body is a survivalist, and your body is always going to do what it takes to survive, not thrive. This is why menopause weight gain often shows up with like brain fog, fatigue, anger issues, sleep disruption, hot flashes, because it's not happening because your metabolism suddenly stopped working. It's happening because this entire system has been thrown off. It's not coordinating with each other anymore. And it's different. Every person that I've ever had who's gained weight during menopause tells me the same exact thing. This is different from any weight I've ever gained in my life. I can't lose it. It's harder to lose no matter how much I diet, no matter how much I exercise. I can't lose this weight. This is why, because it's not a calorie issue. It's not a motivation issue either. It's not even really a thyroid issue. It's a system problem. So please hear me when I say this to you. This is not about your level of dedication. It is not about your discipline. Again, when your entire body is doing this shit, how are you supposed to lose weight? Again, it's all going to cycle back together. When you don't have enough energy, your body is always going to compensate. It's going to say, raise cortisol, raise adrenaline. We have to get energy from somewhere, right? If I can't use protein and I can't use carbs and I can't use fat and my thyroid's not working and my digestion is fucked up and I have no nutrition, where am I going to get energy from? Oh, my nervous system says we're in fight or flight. So let's get some adrenaline in here so we can do something today. And then that's going to trigger a whole cascade also. So this whole system gets re-triggered over and over and over again. And then we're in that chicken and egg situation. We don't know which one came first. We can't pinpoint the issue. In that chicken and egg situation, I hope that you understand that this is not your fault. Please take shame out of the equation. That's something that I'm very big on. Okay. A lot of women walk around blaming themselves for things that they literally have no control over. If you don't know that a problem exists, how are you supposed to fix it? This is not your fault. There's so much misinformation out there. And there's also a lack of information, which is literally the whole reason that I'm making these videos, because if I didn't dig for 10 years, I wouldn't have found this information either. And I did. I dug for 10 years to figure this out. And it's not your fault. So please take shame out of the equation. This is not a discipline, a motivation, a whatever issue. This is a chemical, biological, hormonal problem. But the great thing is you can fix it. So let's talk about different ways to fix it. So I know at this point, you're probably saying to yourself, okay, so do I need hormones? Do I need to replace the estrogen that has been lost here? That's where HRT comes into the picture. Let's talk about this honestly. HRT is not the whole picture. For some women, it does amazing work. It reduces hot flashes. It improves your sleep. And if you're having like 10 hot flashes a day, HRT could be like a godsend. Okay. It also helps with like vaginal dryness. It helps with gut stability. And now you understand why, because all of these things are affected when you don't have estrogen, but it doesn't automatically give you coordination. It will help. And in a lot of situations, it will help, but it doesn't fix the problem. It's not wrong. And it's not like inherently dangerous. I mean, if you've had estrogen-based cancers in your life, but I would say proceed with caution. But the truth of the matter is it comes down to this fact. HRT is a tool. And just like any other tool in your arsenal, you have to use tools in the right situations and in the right environments for you to get the full benefit of that tool. The question isn't to HRT or not HRT, right? That's not the question. The real question is, do you have the system that's going to make HRT really beneficial for you? A lot of women are on HRT and they don't feel that much better. Their hot flashes go away and they sleep a little bit better, but they still feel the chaos, especially the mood issues and the digestive issues and that high stress fight or flight feeling. That doesn't go away just because you added HRT. Okay. What actually does fix it and what actually does make HRT really great is when you stabilize this nervous system. You have to restore function to the nervous system. We'll talk about ways to do that. You also have to restore digestion and nutrient status. Okay. Actually, if you restore nutrient status, your nervous system function will regulate because your nervous system uses a crap ton of B vitamins and a crap ton of mineral nutrients. So if you restore those, the nervous system will calm down. You have to improve blood sugar signaling. So between the thyroid and your pancreas, you have to improve that signaling. How do you do that? Stop eating sugar. Okay. And you have to support that thyroid communication. The way that we do that is you got to lower the cortisol. And you could do that in a lot of different ways: meditation, ashwagandha, rhodiola, a lot of different things. But that's the way that you correct this problem. You don't just throw HRT on top of chaos. If we fix all of this and then you take a tiny, tiny, tiny dose of HRT, you're going to feel like a new person. And that's really what this whole thing boils down to. If we can create safety, if we can create regulation, your body is essentially going to be brand new. So again, menopause didn't break you. All it did was reveal all the areas in your body that were too reliant on estrogen. When I say too reliant on estrogen, I'm saying relying on estrogen to function. Now that estrogen is not there, none of them can do their job. And that shouldn't be the case. It didn't break you. It just revealed what was going on underneath. And you know how I started this video by saying that menopause is really a multi-year shutdown of systems that just got revealed all at once? Why did that happen? Because most of us are super stressed out for a very long period of time, and then we hit menopause. What do we expect the system to do once we get there? You've basically been running on empty 10, 20, 30 years, and then your estrogen gets cut off. That's what the problem is. If you're, again, in your 20s and 30s and you're watching this video, let's talk about how you're going to cut it off, okay? Because you don't want to get to menopause already messed up. If you're at menopause in your late 40s, early 50s, and upward, if you're at menopause and you're dealing with these issues, HRT hasn't helped that much, or you get like minimal changes from different things that you're trying, most of the time you're trying to hit one of these systems. So like a lot of women get put on psychotropics post-menopause because they feel a little cray-cray. And that's happening because of all these things being depleted by your estrogen loss. You're only supporting this system, which is why a lot of those psychotropics don't fully help you, because the cortisol and this stress signal is not going to be addressed by a psychotropic. It's not going to be addressed by a serotonin reuptake inhibitor. In fact, if estrogen increases your serotonin availability, and that's supposed to help you stay sane, and you lose estrogen and your use of serotonin diminishes, adding something that further diminishes your serotonin uptake is not going to help. Again, we're trying to deal with one part of this whole entire shit show. In reality, we need to deal with it all at once in order to get you significantly better. And honestly, if you talk to anybody who's worked with me, they will tell you that we fix all of this, because I don't believe in hitting things one thing at a time. I think that leaves you open to a lot of mess. I think it leaves you open to disappointment because you're not going to get the results that you want. And if you can fix all of this at once, I mean, like, why wouldn't you? Right? Like, if I could fix my liver and my gallbladder and my digestion and my thyroid and my nervous system and my cortisol at the same time, why wouldn't I do that? Right? Why would I spend 6 months working on this and then 6 months working on this and then another 6 months working on that? Waste of time. Your body is a healer. Your body has the ability to heal itself. It just needs the right tools and it needs the right environment to do it. Okay? And you can, I promise. The goal, again, isn't to fight it. It's to rebuild so that your system can work for you, work with you, and, live a wonderful life. So if this video helped make things make sense, if you feel like, I got some answers here that I've never heard before, please like and share this video, subscribe to my channel. We're going to be talking about lots of different topics in the Hormone Shit Show. And again, most of the things that women deal with can be explained right here. Nothing in your body happens in isolation. Nothing. Everything in your system is connected. We can figure out why this is happening to you. If this video answered some questions, please give me a like, subscribe to the channel, and most importantly, if someone that you love is suffering, please send this to them, because you never know. Maybe it answers something that they've been dealing with. Maybe, they got diagnosed with an autoimmune disease that they don't understand how they got post-menopause. Maybe this will help them understand and, bring some relief and take away the shame and take away the guessing. I think the worst part about female aging is guessing. So let's take the guesswork out of it. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.